Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where I chat with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And oftentimes, I'm really fortunate to chat with leaders and founders of companies that support these brands. And so before anything else, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Firebelly Marketing. Firebelly helps food and beverage brands build themselves up on social, build retail velocity. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. Today, I'm so excited to have a powerhouse in the natural CPG space joining us, Angela Marturano, founder and president of Orchid Holistic Search. And I'm going to read it because it's so impressive. Angela leads a values-aligned executive search firm, and she specializes in placing top-tier talent in the natural products industry. It's a very specialized industry. And beyond recruiting, she's also an investor in a woman-led regenerative farm in Costa Rica, where she now lives, and she's passionate about building community through food. When she's not helping companies find their next game-changing leader, she's hosting retreats for women in the industry. In fact, she just hosted a retreat last weekend, exploring the intersection of sustainability, wellness, and leadership. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Duncan. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you before I even met you. I felt like I was getting to know you through your amazing LinkedIn storytelling. And in fact, I took a play out of your playbook and the reintroductions every few months. So welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Thank you so much. The reintroductions are so fun, aren't they? Gives you a chance to reinvent yourself and talk about what's new and exciting and what you're currently passionate about.
Yeah, I loved it. In fact, when I did my reintroduction, I think I tagged you because I was so excited about it. I'd never thought about it. And it's interesting because now I'm doing that in Slack communities that I'm a part of. Every few months, I'll just say, "Hey, everyone, here's what's up with me. Here's what I'm focusing on." So that's super cool. And Angela, your story and your life is such an inspiration. Let me start kind of with the work side of things. Like, how did you decide to start your company, and how is it different?
Great question. How did we decide to start Orchid? So Orchid Holistic Search is a partnership between myself and my husband. So my husband is a naturopathic medical doctor. And when I met him, he was working in a job that he didn't really love. He was a nutrition coach at a large fitness institution, well-known gym, right? He was a head of nutrition. I was recruiting in the automotive space. I loved making connections and bridging people to companies, but the automotive space really didn't pull at my heartstrings. We were sort of interviewing each other as we were first getting to know one another. And he told me all about natural products industry because we were talking about, well, what do other naturopaths do for work? And so through that conversation, I was like, okay, there's a whole industry out here that specializes in making dietary supplements, making better for you functional food and beverage. That sounds amazing. So we took a life-changing trip to Peru, and when we got back, I was young and naive enough at 24 that we just decided to go for it and start the company, and that was 15 years ago. How we are different. We are one super, super, super specific in our niche. We only work for better for you food and beverage and supplement companies where we love the people, where we would consume the product ourselves. Right. So those two things are super important to us, and that companies that are building conscious teams. Right. And so how are we different beyond that is that we wanted to sort of recreate the search model. What I realized working for another search firm was that typically these companies would take on as many clients as they possibly could. How many searches can you possibly take on at one time? We felt like quality over quantity. Like that had to be number one. So we only take on 3 to 5 searches, and we focus our 100% on those clients until we fill their positions.
Well, I know I was reading one of your posts recently where you said that you all started around the kitchen table. And there are many times you still sit around the kitchen table and you were about to make a major hire and you felt like it wasn't the right thing for you to do. And so, I mean, that's something I say on calls. I just came off a business development call and I said, hey, listen, I'm the owner. I don't need to make any quotas. I'm not funding, a New York City rent here. I'm not, I mean, I have a amazing small team that does a lot. And for me, the fit is critical. And I'm just saying that to resonate with you that the fit has to be critical, correct?
Absolutely. If it's not 100% on all sides, then it's not worth pursuing. And I feel I have a strong level of trust in the universe, or a higher power, whatever you'd like to call it, that everything works out as it should. And I find that forcing anything, forcing a client relationship, forcing a candidate into a role, it doesn't feel good for anybody, and it's likely not going to work out in the long term. So, for anyone who's playing a long game, right? In this industry, relationships are critical, and making sure that values are aligned, that's the most important thing that you could do.
And why I brought that whole thing up, with the decision you made is because I've faced that decision on so many occasions. It's like, hey, do I just go for the dollars, or can we sustain the level of service? Can we still grow those relationships? Can we feel good about our lives, right? Can we go to sleep on time? And that's the decision, that we have also made. And man, I tell you what, it's a great decision for your conscience and for your life.
Absolutely. And I was just sort of taking an inventory, thinking back over the last few years about clients that we've maybe taken on, given a shot to, maybe this could work, even though you know that there's sort of that like gut feeling that it's probably not 100% aligned. And every single time, it didn't really work out, right? It didn't work out in an optimal way. So here on out, I would much prefer to work with, a few of the real ones, the authentic ones, the ones that I really like to support. And, again, like you, we're not working for a Times Square rent. We've done everything we can, like personally, to live on as low of a budget as we possibly can. So that stretches our runway like considerably.
And I wanted to ask you, let's talk a little bit about the farm. There's so much to talk about the farm, and it's not only is it impressive and amazing and inspiring, but I love the fact that it's regenerative. And I know there's a lot of people who don't understand all of that. So let's just ask, like, how'd you decide to go live on a farm?
Okay, so there are two farms in conversation. One is a farm called Blanco y Negro, and I invested in that farm. It was pre-existing. It was um, founded by two beautiful Tika sisters, Maria and Laura Figueres, and now I feel like I'm a third sister to them. Um, and so what they were doing, what they started from basically a handful of seeds and a dream and some love, really inspired me. I met them several years ago when I moved to a very rural community. I was seeking out good food, as I always do, no matter where I am. And we found this artisanal French cheese manufacturer. Like, we saw it on the road. And when we reached out to them, they said, "Oh no, you can only find us in XYZ exclusive supermarket in the city, or there are these girls that bring the cheese around during their farm deliveries." And so we're like, okay, let's meet them. At that time, they were doing 60 to 80 deliveries a week of their own farm fresh produce, including leafy greens, which we're known for, oyster mushrooms, which we have a very cool setup for that, various fruits and veggies. And then they would start to take on other local brands. So a kombucha company, chocolate. They expanded their own bakery, so breads, and then these beautiful cheeses. So I met them through being a customer and absolutely loving the food that would be delivered to my door every Thursday. And after a few years, I would just listen to the struggles and the truck breaking down, how hard farming is. And I said, what would it look like if you had an angel investor? And they're like, "Hi, Angela, what's that? How would we find one?" And I was like, "Hey." So that's how I made the decision. And part of the reason for doing that was because the truck literally would break down, and with all these deliveries, it was really a cog in the wheel. And we wanted to open a store. We don't have any natural food stores here in the area where I live, so we opened the first natural food store. We expanded it after the first couple of years to include sandwiches, salads, smoothies, ready to go items too to support the community and eating really good farm to table foods, even when they're on the go.
That's amazing. And I mean, I've learned a lot recently in the last, let's say year about regenerative farming, and it is a real investment. It is a real investment. It's time intensive, but I think I love the fact that you mentioned the word conscious earlier. It is a conscious way of living because you're doing something in a considerate way. I mean,
It is. It's considerate to the people, right? And that's the biggest thing. When we talk about regenerative, how does that impact your team? How does that impact the local community? How does that impact the soil? And therefore the future generations that are going to be eating from that land. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's really awe-inspiring. The farm is Blanco y Negro is tiny, but all of the inputs are made on site. From going and harvesting what they call them microorganismos de montaña. So harvesting these microorganisms from the mountain, mixing them with molasses and other inputs to use to fertilize the plants. They've got natural pesticides that they make in these huge drums. Of course, compost. We have a pig that circular eats anything that's too old at the store or leftovers. And then we also, have a big compost and and making the substrate for our mushrooms, like using the chopped grass, boiling it, and adding, I think, a little bit of molasses into there and making them so that they grow beautiful fruiting bodies of mushrooms. So yeah, everything that we do is with love. Like I said, farming is a huge challenge. Anyone who's touched it knows that it's a labor of love. That's why there's so many needs for value added products and services on top of just the greens. Like, how can we add value to that? How can we add value to raspberries that are going to go bad? How can we add value to, making better for you breads? So all of those things, and farm to table dinners is a big part of it as well.
It's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My life changed because I listened to my wife. So all the guys listening out there, my wife, whose name is also Angela, told me, your struggles with your gut are not normal. You got to go see her naturopath. And I was like, no, no, it's all like, it's woo-woo stuff. I'm not into it. I believe in Western medicine. And so finally, last year, around this time, I started going. And over the course of the next 6 months, I figured out that I had IBS.
Hmm.
So I switched to a gluten-free, dairy-free diet in November. Immediately lost weight. I started feeling normal, like normal. I didn't know what normal meant. I didn't know that, you didn't have to have, discomfort in your lower gut. You didn't have to be bloated all the time, and you didn't have to rationalize away things. And it's amazing how many more products there are today that are natural and that you can read the label, you can pronounce the label, they're operating with values. And those are the kinds of companies you support.
Absolutely. And to your point, like it's so much easier these days to find great products, not only the supplements, which obviously people have pill fatigue, right? Um, so how many probiotic pills and enzymes and things can you take on a daily basis? Obviously those can be the most potent, but then we have so many other ways to enjoy, gut healthy products from kombuchas to sauerkrauts to kefir and then stick packs and all these, gut healthy sodas as well. Not a product that I would use, but they're seeing success out there in the market. So that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear you're feeling better.
Yeah, really. I will say that after coming back from Expo, there are too many better for you sodas. and a lot of them don't taste good. I mean, I've been drinking these things for the last 3 years, like on a weekly basis. I have to go to different stores because I keep running out of things to drink. And also, every time there's a new soda on the shelf, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm so happy for them, but I'm also really sad for the people whose soda got taken off the shelf, right? But there are too many. There are too many. Um,
There's a bubble. There's a better for you beverage bubble for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that too much. It's not a product that I drink a lot of. I don't have access to it, first of all, first and foremost. Like there's that. I just don't have access to all of these cool non-alcoholic beverages. So I have to go with what I can harvest on my farm and get locally, which is very limited. But I definitely see your point, and I saw that with the expo recaps.
You know, I have to say that just my gut is telling me that the team that your husband and you make with him, with his naturopath background, has to be such a unique team in terms of what you do, because you can really get behind the science, or the rationale behind your clients' products to kind of understand what they're trying to do.
So there's yes, thank you for bringing that up. I feel like you see us. We have first of all, we have very complementary skill sets. He is extremely intelligent, analytical. He understands the science behind the product. So when we first started, we knew exactly which companies were the serious players and who were the fly-by-night types of companies, or companies that really weren't substantiated. So there's that piece of it. The second piece, as a naturopathic doctor, your goal is to understand a whole person holistically, right? Not just what is the symptom, but everything else that goes around it. And he was actually a gut health specialist when he had a practice. So he saw people like you all the time. So it wasn't just what's going on with your IBS, but how are you eating? How are you moving? What are you thinking? Because there's a huge connection between the gut brain axis, right? So that piece as well. And so we kind of took the model of naturopathic medicine and used it to create a holistic model of search. So it's not just, okay, here's my job description. Who can I hire? No, we need to know the history of the company, the future of the company, all of the people that we don't see who are involved with the company. What is the personality of the rest of the team? What is the dynamic? Where do you see this role going? What is the growth curve? What is the investment? So there's so much beyond that we take into consideration. And on the other side, I love to get to know the whole person. So it's not just here's Mary, Bob, and Alicia. It's who are these as people, as individuals, and why do they fit the mission, vision, and values of the company that you're looking to build?
That's an amazing approach. I know that as a tiny firm ourselves, when we do our interview process, our VP brings me in to go off script intentionally. It's like I don't have a script. I just get into conversation so we can understand whether the person aligns with our values, what they do for fun. Do they like to have fun? Do they rest? And so I can understand how that holistic approach that you all take can make a big difference. And not everyone gets that, right? I think there's a certain kind of client that gets that value, that they want someone that truly fits. Because if you have the fit, then you can go to the next level.
That's right. That's right. And as a firm, we're not for everybody, right? Because we have to partner with companies who are looking at their team holistically, who are treating people consciously, who see past the need for the skill set today and what does this individual contribute over the long term to a company. And so when we're able to work with folks like that, that's when the magic happens.
That is something magical about what you said, right? Because hopefully, as humans, we are dynamic and we're agile and we're changing. And just like in a long-term relationship with a significant other, you want to pick someone not just for who they are today, but hopefully for who they will be. And can you guys, walk side by side? And I think that that's when you have to look at that hiring for potential. I mean, okay, maybe you can't hire a CEO purely for potential, but I think that potential to change and grow as the firm changes and grows is probably a huge deal.
Absolutely. And you have to hire for the company that you're going to be in 5 to 10 years. ideally, or at least let's say 3 to 5. It is a startup world after all. A lot changes. But if you look at a finite moment of time, the person that you hire for today is not going to be the person that grows with you.
That's amazing. Now, let me ask you this. We talked in the pre-show, and I think we've talked before about you hosting retreats. Let's give us a quick input into what that looks like and what you do.
So this is the retreat piece for me is a total joy project. That's what I'll call it. And in fact, I'll share with you in a minute more about that. But it started as like sort of the catalyst for this was I was spending a lot of time alone. It was pandemic. I'm up here on a mountain in a rural part of Costa Rica where I literally know no one except for Maria and Laura who are bringing me vegetables. And I'm talking to all of these amazing women. They are leaders. Some of them are founders, executives, mothers, holding a lot of responsibility. And I sensed a communal sense of loneliness that they didn't maybe have the right support network of other women who truly felt and understood and saw them. So I thought, how cool would it be to use my sort of expertise in my new country of residence, Costa Rica, and bring women down for a time to decompress, to let go of the mask that we all wear, right? In a business setting. Like, sure, we might all have friends from trade shows, but have you sat in yoga clothes in the jungle together for a whole week? That's another level of depth. And that's what I was going for. So I invited them to join me on my own personal like dream week. And I created that. And lo and behold, everybody that I had asked was really excited. And by day two, these women were asking me, are we going to do this next year? Are the dates the same? And I hadn't even thought that far. But it has been an absolute joy. We have almost like 75% return rate for year to year. And so we started with a January group, and this past year added a September group as well. And so it's a total joy to be with women. We don't do a lot of business discussion or learning during the retreat. A lot of it is about inner growth, inner work, and being in a natural environment where we are just bathing in nature, eating great food, moving our bodies, hiking, being inspired by the awe of nature. And then that is what creates this beautiful dynamic and a sisterhood. And the magic really actually happens after the retreat when there is beautifully aligned natural networking, super authentic. Does anyone know a buyer for Target? Has anyone dealt with this employee situation? Hey, I need a co-manufacturer, like real work. There have been women who have hired each other. There have been women who have given contracts to one another. So the business stuff happens, but it's been so beautiful to have this cohort of women who truly understand each other.
That's beautiful. I'm hearing three things. I'm hearing connection, like beautiful, true connection. I'm hearing community.
Hmm.
But let's face it, the third thing is critical, the environment, right? I mean, if you did this in, some big city or, somewhere that was different in some way, I think the environment is a critical piece, community, connection, and environment, which is what you've created.
The reason I moved to Costa Rica, Duncan, is that it is a space that truly inspires awe on a daily basis. Someone asked me, are you still like in awe of living there 7 years in? Yeah, every single day. It deepens your perception of what's happening in nature when you get to be in this environment. I watch, I don't know, bugs and birds and the way that things move and grow and die. And I think that Costa Rica is just a beautiful container for healing. It's one of the most colorful places in the world. And then another thing I didn't mention on the retreats, we really like to get our hands dirty, you know, making compost, planting things, really spending time with those herbal plant medicines, right, that are coming out of the earth that we all use and talk about in the industry, but many of the women have never actually spent time with, connecting with in real life. So there's a huge power in that component of the retreats as well.
That's really amazing. I think the time is another piece in there, time and in addition to those three things, because you're slowing time down in a way. That's really
Yep.
amazing.
I look at a lot of retreats, right? I've been on some before. And my intention was basically what I do in search, what I do in retreats is create a flow, right? Create and orchestrate a process. And so, yeah, the first few days are all about slowing down and being with our environment. And then we go really deep and then we come back to reality. And so, yeah, the time spent is huge and it's a gift, right? To not do dishes, not cook, not clean, not have meetings, and just spend a week with yourself and your sisters filling your cup. It's pretty special.
That's really amazing. I had one question for you, one more question for you, or maybe two more. You know, you can answer this any way you want. Like, I want you to think about anyone or anything that you want to just put out there in the universe and say, hey, thank you, and or any thought that you want, just an open-ended question.
An open-ended question
Yeah.
for people?
Open
For
you
people in,
any thought that you want to put out there into the universe.
oh gosh. We are so disconnected. And I don't think I really felt that until I moved here. But I think about my life in the States and how fast-paced it is and how convenience-oriented it is and how everything comes at a click of a button. And I think that the deepest level of learning comes from a slowness and an appreciation for what we have. Like I'm all about gratitude practice on a daily basis. And I think that when we slow down enough and find moments where we can really connect with our food, primarily as our main source, right? Uh, that's when we really tune in to how we are connected in a bigger picture. So I think that we, as a society, super disconnected, and that food is one very critical way to connect back with source.
Thank you so much.
I
And
don't know if that was a question.
no, that's
Uh,
that was a I wanted to kind of bring a delta in there and just throw something out there with unexpected, and you did a great job with that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being so generous with your time and your philosophy and your kindness on LinkedIn before we even ever met officially. You just exude kindness and consideration. So thank you for making the world better, Angela. Thank you for making the world better.
Hay
And
muchas gracias, Duncan.
thank you so much, for coming on the show today and for everything that you do. And it's been such a delightful conversation, talking about leadership. And I loved creating the right flow and also building conscious teams. And so for anyone wanting to connect with Angela or exploring hiring in the natural CPG space, orchidholisticsearch.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, tell a friend, create some word of mouth, share it with someone you know. Big thanks again to Firebelly Marketing for sponsoring today's episode. If you want to build your brand on social or get some retail velocity, head over to firebellymarketing.com. That's it for today. I'm your host, Duncan. I never say my last name. I'm your host, Duncan Alney. Keep building, keep growing, and we'll see you next time on the Firebelly Social Show. And one more shout out to Angela. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Duncan. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.